Mr. Wad just joined on the Blockmates pod. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Like I was just saying before, it's been a while since the last time I've been on Blockmates. So yeah, happy to always be here with my friends
Well,
as well. It's good
yeah.
vibes.
Well, I pinned you last week, didn't I, at the Stargate dinner? And I was like, get on the pod, Waj. Been busting for him to come
I'm
on with me and
I'm
Gaz.
always
And
down. I'm always down to yap with you guys.
Drop some
how's
alpha,
life,
yeah.
mate? How's
Yeah, life's
life?
good. Busy building.
Yep.
So some really cool products on the way. Uh, I think DeFi is like entering like this new era. This whole DeFi renaissance thing. I think we're past that now. I think we're entering like a new era altogether. So I think with that, like I'm looking to build like something really unique that just hasn't ever been seen before. So yeah, I'm very busy with that, and hopefully I can share more about it in the coming weeks, maybe.
I won't press you then if you're not going to be able to reveal any more at this stage. How are you, Gaz, mate? Same life, just ticking over in Vietnam, just eating steaks and lifting.
It's doing well, bro, to be fair. Not a
Yeah.
stressful life here. Yeah, I'm enjoying myself, to be fair. So, yeah,
At
it's,
least the weather's good, right?
it's boiling hot, mate. You know what
You
us
have
Brits are like?
you have
It's
AC.
over. It's over mid-30s. We complain about it, don't we? So, can't have it all.
No, you
No,
can't.
no. Right. Okay. Straight into this, lads. So, just top of the show, as always, we're going to do the what you need to know, rattle through some of these headlines, and then I've got a feeling that this is going to be an institutional episode, gents. Governmental. I feel like I've been mispronouncing things left, right, and centre these last couple
Large.
of weeks. Right. So here we go. So the Satoshi Nakamoto statue, which was tossed into a lake, has been recovered by the Lugano authorities. The Curve community member files proposal. Sorry, I should repeat that. So, Curve community member files proposal to cut all ongoing and further L2 developments so that builders could spend their productive time on more meaningful things. Depends what you think of L2s there. Coinbase's Q2 earnings do not meet expectations. The company earned 1.43 billion or $5.14 per share. The UK's Financial Conduct Authority is to open retail access to crypto ETNs from October 8th to provide consumers with more choice. Bit of a weird one. Coinbase to launch tokenized stocks, prediction markets for US users in the coming months. Lots of talk about prediction markets at the minute, I feel. Tether registers a net profit of 4.9 billion. That's a new quarterly record for the company. USDC and CCTP v2 will soon be deployed in the Hyperliquid ecosystem. A temporary outage hit the Polygon network after a validator exited. It's a bit of a shitty one there. Shouldn't have read that out, really. Lido announces a 15% workforce slash, and Visa grows its stablecoin infrastructure, adds support for PYUSD, USDG, and EURC across Avalanche and Stellar. Its services were previously limited to Ethereum and Solana. But I think the only place to start this week, lads, is this actually broke. I think like Walter Bloomberg tweeted it as I was arriving at the dinner last week, Waj, that we were at the Stargate dinner. And it is the big shake-up ahead on the tails of the SEC. So the tweet came out because the headline is SEC Chair Paul Atkins announces Project Crypto to bring TradFi on chain, which is still on -chain there. So I apologize for the on-chain folk out there who will be very upset that we didn't spell that correctly. Still updating the document with the team. So the US Securities and Exchange Commission obviously is preparing for a significant change in how financial markets operate, introducing an initiative dubbed Project Crypto, aimed at updating securities regulations for an increasingly blockchain-based future. So the announcement, as I said, did come last Thursday via Paul Atkins, who emphasized that the goal is to align US markets with emerging technologies while providing a clear framework for crypto-related activities. So the Project Crypto is set to build on recommendations outlined in a recent report from the President's Working Group, a coalition of federal agencies, including the Treasury and Commerce Departments. And the long and short of it is the initiative obviously will involve close collaboration with SEC policy divisions and a dedicated crypto task force led by Commissioner Hester Peirce to draft proposals that adapt current rules for on-chain systems. Just another quote here before I go to the fellas. So it's just, we want to ensure that the US remains the best place to launch businesses and innovate in finance, Atkins said during his announcement. So on this one, fellas, this has been the ongoing story since the Trump administration came in. It feels like everything we thought we would get with a Trump administration SEC, with Paul Atkins, feels pretty huge, but we also know what false promises can be like in this in the orange man's government. So, Gaz, what did you make of this when you read it last week?
I think this has been like a bit of a compounding of effects here, that we've had a lot of bullish propaganda coming from the Trump camp and US broadly, because you've got obviously a 180 from previous SEC chair Gensler. Now you've got Paul Atkins saying we're going to bring financial markets in the US on chain. So like things have turned up a lot here. And I think for anyone building in DeFi, working in DeFi, just broadly being in this industry, everything is lining up to be very bullish. These have been some great headlines to see. And it seems that things are going to really progress here as well, because obviously we had the Genius Act, which has gone through, I think, during this kind of crypto week that they talked about previously. You've got this anti-CBDC Act. There's also a Clarity Act. And so you're just seeing a lot of things that are very bullish for our industry more broadly. So I think what this spells is like something we've mentioned previously. I think the Trump kind of legacy and maybe his family lineage here are kind of banking on crypto to be the method for them to make this generational wealth. I think that's very obvious at this point, and they typically do what they do what they want. So I wouldn't be, taking the opposite side of this. I'm happy to be on the side of pretty much all in crypto here. So bullish stuff more broadly. Waj is obviously building in the DeFi sector. How does that, translate to you, sir?
I think it's going to be more interesting on like the derivative side, especially because I think historically we haven't really had things like crypto perps on US kind of centralized exchanges like Coinbase. But I think like things like that are opening up now, and I think Coinbase are going to like start offering perps. So I think like stuff like that is going to be really interesting, as well as like offering yield bearing stable coins and things like that. A lot of things that historically maybe US or UK kind of users have sometimes not been able to access. I guess it's going to be more US rather than UK, to be fair. But
yeah, we've missed the boat.
No. So I think it's going to be interesting to see like more uses of these sorts of instruments. I guess in terms of like how I suspect these products to look, I think that the US is obviously going to look at creating like KYC backed products, etc. Probably working with Coinbase or other entities, whether it's like institutions for these. So I guess it doesn't really affect me as a builder per se, because it's like a completely different style or type of product. But I still think it's going to be interesting because you're just going to get so much more access to these products. I think that's going to be the cool thing. And I think for me, like the one thing that will be really, really big is like how we can get like more Bitcoin in people's retirement funds, how we can get, or not just Bitcoin, but like other assets as well. How can we get like DeFi yield bearing stablecoins in people's retirement funds, people's ISA accounts, or those sorts of vehicles? I think it's going to be really interesting.
So that's first question I have for you is then, how do you interpret this? Is this, because one of the key objectives of this Project Crypto thing is to obviously integrate DeFi into regulated markets. Is this more catered towards the fund managers than it is the everyman, do you think? Because this is a kind of consistent conversation that we have about DeFi and like how realistic it is for Tim off the street to be utilizing DeFi yield bearing strategies like you're saying, Waj, or who do you think is kind of primarily looking at this and going, interesting, move forward, guys?
Yeah, I think it's going to be for everyone, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to be just the dudes in suits here. I think they're just trying to bring DeFi to the masses, and what you're going to see is a lot of the big banks make some serious moves in the space, which is already happening. We know about that. And they're going to probably try and eat the lunch of some of these exchanges at some point. I think what this speaks to as well is the kind of tokenization of the stock market. I think we're probably a lot closer to that than what people expect. And it'd be nice to see 24/7, 365 stonks trading on crypto rails. I think that'll bring a lot more attention to the crypto industry, and it just makes it more valid overall, and more people can be confident in utilizing crypto as it is just maturing here. I think that's the kind of the message I'm getting from this, the maturation of crypto more broadly.
One thing that I've been thinking throughout this whole move from the Trump administration that obviously made crypto a pretty big part of the campaign strategy, and then everything we've been seeing on the back of it with all the Epstein files and shit like that. One thing that I wonder is, because we talk all the time, don't we, about the PR issue for this industry. And like, say, for example, you get a Democratic government back in the next, well, it feels like Trump's been in a lot longer than what he has. But like, do you think that all of this like ushering in of new regulation and accepting of the industry, do you think that will be here to stay now? Or do you think it will continue to be how do I put it? Like a tug of war between the two? Because that's the one concern that I have sometimes. I'm like, are we just going to take how many ever steps forward and then any step back, or is that just a pointless question at this point? Because it could play out either way.
It's quite far away, I think.
Well, it is, but I'm also looking at it and going, are we just going to be more and more tarred with the brush of the Trump empire?
I would say look at how much progress has been made in like 6 months per se. So how much more progress will we make in another 6 months? Let alone multiple years until that comes. Yeah. I think by that stage things will be so much more integrated, so much more advanced that going back on all of this stuff will be almost impossible.
Once the big banks have really got their feet wet here,
exactly,
it's going to become too big for them to wind this back, and it's kind of follow the money, isn't it? If there's enough money on the line here, you're going to be able to get whoever's in power to vote the way you want. So I wouldn't be too worried. I think obviously in the short term, like if things were to go really array right now, like in the infancy, that wouldn't be good. But I think as we gain momentum here, I think it becomes less and less likely that you get, a change of guard at the top of the US, and then things just unwind and we're back in the Stone Age. I don't think that's going to happen here.
I'm frothing with excitement.
Bullish
lands. Yeah. Right. So speaking of banks, speaking of banks and institutions, and on from your thought there was it's going to be good. So Coinbase partners with JP Morgan to link Chase accounts to crypto exchange. So as I've just said, this is a move that could make it easier for millions of US banking customers to interact with crypto. The partnership announced Wednesday will roll out in stages. This was Wednesday last week. Eventually allowing Chase users to link their bank accounts directly to Coinbase, redeem loyalty points for new digital dollars, and fund their crypto purchases using Chase credit cards. So according to the announcement, the integration will begin with the option to fund Coinbase accounts via Chase later this year. By 2026, customers will gain the ability to convert their ultimate rewards points into Circle's USDC with the funds delivered on Base, Coinbase's Ethereum L2. This marks the first time a major US bank's rewards program will enable redemption directly into a crypto asset. I mean, this is just a follow on from what we've just said, isn't it, really? It's like these stories never feel too sexy to talk about anymore because it kind of just keeps seeming to roll in, which, to back up what you're saying, Waj, fucking hell, just it's good news.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And I think like Coinbase are really going to be at the center of all of this, whether it's like with the TradFi integrations like this with JP Morgan, but also with the DeFi integrations. So I think like Coinbase will just be like the hub that everyone goes to, whether you're an institution, whether you're a retail, like it doesn't matter. You're just going to end up going through Coinbase. Coinbase did an integration with Morpho where like through the Coinbase app you can use Bitcoin as collateral. Like, so you don't even have to be on chain directly. You don't need a wallet. You can literally just do it all on the Coinbase app. And I think like now there's reward schemes, people go crazy about your Amex points or your credit card points. Being able to like earn crypto from those rewards is huge.
Do you think as well, because in terms of like customers link their bank accounts with JP Morgan to a Coinbase wallet, you're then one very small step removed from the Coinbase app and all the different apps that are available on there. There's obviously going to be some huge winners within that realm, like some really big winners, I'd assume. So I think this is quite bullish, and like it seems like it's kind of Coinbase's to lose with these kind of integrations going forwards. But I do want to double back on some of the comments that obviously Jamie Dimon has made over the years about crypto. I think specifically Bitcoin, though, calling it things like pet rock, fraud, Ponzi scheme. Like those are his quotes. And now they've done the 180, and they're kind of, I think they've got their own chain, haven't they? That's maybe institutional only at the moment, but they're working on stuff in the background. They can see where this is all heading. So don't listen to maybe some of the quotes that come out of their camp or read into that too much. There's obviously a trajectory forward here for them. And yeah, you're going to see JP Morgan dollars and all these kind of things. There's too much money to be made by them for them not to participate massively.
So when are we going to see the massive run on alts?
Q4.
Never.
Q5. I don't know. We'll get to that at the end. So look, right, I don't want to talk about that's like 15 minutes of institutional talk, because there's a couple more things that I do want to get through, which we talk about OpSec a lot. And one of the stories that I sent you lads before we started recording here is, I don't want to call it a wild one because sort of nothing really surprises me anymore in this game, but there is a story of a guy who's seemingly his hot wallet was obviously compromised over a year ago, and whoever it was that's done this has then waited like 12 months time to extract over 900 grand out of the wallet. So I'm just going to rattle through some of this. So delayed crypto heist. This hacker waited over a year to strike and steal 908k, as I've just said. So the incident traces back to the 30th of April last year when the victim unknowingly signed a malicious ERC20 token approval. Security analysts believe the approval may have been triggered by a phishing site or a fake airdrop campaign. This action granted a scammer the control of a wallet. We all know how this works. And then for more than a year, the compromised wallet remained largely inactive and held little value. That changed, though, on the 2nd of July, when the user deposited over 700k, well, actually just shy of 800 to be fair, in USDC from a MetaMask wallet, followed shortly by another 146k from a Kraken account. Then the attacker appeared to monitor the address for weeks, waiting until the balance was high enough before executing a single Swift transaction on the 2nd of August, draining the wallet at 4:57 a.m. UTC. Yeah. First of all, thoughts go out to this guy, by the way. But I'm not even sure how to phrase this question. Is lads, like, how, when we talk about OpSec, right? We started the first half of this episode talking about, government acceptance of DeFi and integrating it into real lives and stuff like this. And one of the questions that I asked you about DeFi was whether that's better for users or institutions. Now we're talking about Coinbase, and we haven't touched too much on like non-custodial and kind of permissionless. But the question I'm asking is, unless we can actually get a grip of this kind of thing, when you talk about retail and mass adoption, how realistic is it to think that your average person would be able to think about this kind of thing, given that highly intelligent people who are used to operating on chain probably have a lot of things that they're aware of from an OpSec point of view? How do you combat this? Because I'm kind of out of ideas.
I think this is why you're seeing a lot of people choosing ETFs over self-custody. And you're going to see that, obviously, we've seen it with BTC,
Yeah.
going to see it with ETH, because there is many pitfalls with being the custodian of your own funds. And you're seeing that. It's almost a weekly occurrence on the podcast, to be fair. We're always seeing things like this occurring. So I think in terms of like OpSec, people obviously need to be rotating their funds to fresh keys on a whatever basis they choose. But holding tokens in very old wallets where you've probably clicked tens of thousands of times, like, you're at risk. So I think in terms of OpSec, you do need to be looking into best practices and thinking about what you're doing in terms of what systems can you put in place to remove yourself from these things happening. Like your main wallet that you're holding long-term funds on, that shouldn't be a wallet you're trading from, as an example. And I think it just pays to be more and more paranoid in this industry, because as it is growing, you're seeing more of those pitfalls, which are linked to cybercrime and also physical crimes as well, people being actually attacked for their funds. So it is getting worse. So yeah, I think you have to think long and hard about what you're doing with your funds.
Waj, what do you think about this? Do you have kind of standard practices if that you run through? Like, how often do you sort of revoke access across wallets and stuff like that? I know I'm probably guilty of some bad habits. Do you think about this stuff frequently, or
Yeah, I think it's very easy nowadays to like revoke all your approvals. I think everyone's heard of it. Everyone's done it once before at least. So I think it should just be like a thing that you just do every now and then. I think like this person didn't revoke their approvals for practically a year, and then yeah, so I think like just like how you have to secure your seed phrase in a secure place, you got to do these other things as well. Otherwise, you're just leaving yourself exposed. And clearly, obviously, this person clicked on some phishing link to begin with. I think like and then not only just clicked on it, probably connected their wallet and signed something as well. So I think already there's a huge mistake. I think with time, I'm not so worried about this. You know, things like the recent Ethereum Pectra upgrade is going to like eventually get rid of approvals altogether. So, you know, you won't really have things like that. I think things are generally going to be a lot more secure. Probably in the future, you can set some limits on like how much your wallet can withdraw per day. So you could set a limit like I'm only going to withdraw 10K max per day, and the wallet won't let you withdraw any more than that until you sign it on a multi-sig or something like that. So I'm sure like with time, like all of these security practices will just become super mainstream. I'm not really worried about it. I think it'll fix itself in due time.
Wonder if this would have been flagged by Rabbi had he not been a Crapper Mask user.
Probably.
I was going to say, I mean, one of the key things there is, yeah, maybe. But I think that I myself am guilty of when you're moving fast on chain, especially, and you kind of not. I mean, you get familiar, don't you, with prompts and shit like that. And even though I try and slow myself down, especially if I'm shitcoining, you just going through the motions.
Yeah, but then you're not going to send $1 million to your wallet in one go or something like that, right? Like,
is the flip side here that either he's been targeted, to be fair, like individually targeted, because typically if you click to phishing link, your funds just disappear as soon as you deposit, or is this some ingenious scam to harvest the loss potentially?
yeah, I'm not sure. I was just going to say, I think if you just use a hardware wallet or a multi-sig and revoke your approvals and just be careful about clicking on links, you're generally going to be totally fine.
Yeah, guys, you always take the other side of the argument in this. There's always like some slow rug or some scam up with anyone who gets done on something like this. This episode this week is following quite a natural progression, and granted, it is going to take a bit of a weird turn in a minute. But one of the other stories that we'd seen is essentially a copper who basically helped seize a lot of Bitcoin is now in prison. So the headline for this one is Lawman turned crypto thief. NCA officer jailed for 5.63 million Bitcoin heist. So a former officer of the UK's National Crime Agency has been sentenced to 5.5 years in prison after admitting to stealing 50 Bitcoin that had been seized during a major dark web investigation. So Paul Charles, 42, was part of a multi-agency operation in 2013 alongside the FBI. The investigation targeted Silk Road One, a notorious dark web marketplace where illegal goods were sold. We all are aware of that, I would hope. Following the closure of the site, a successor platform, Silk Road 2.0, emerged under the control of Thomas White. White was later arrested in 2015 and sentenced to more than 5 years in prison in 2019 for running the marketplace. During the investigation, authorities seized 97 Bitcoin from White's devices. Charles, who had access to the crypto data as part of his role in analysing evidence, quietly transferred 50 Bitcoin from a so-called retirement wallet in May 2017. So to conceal the movement of the funds, he split the amount into smaller transactions using a mixing service using Bitcoin known as Bitcoin Fog, and redirected the assets to multiple addresses years later under his control. So then basically a trial has led back to him, which is so the theft initially went unnoticed, as you can probably imagine, with investigators suspecting White had somehow accessed the wallet from prison. It wasn't until Merseyside police launched a separate probe in 2022 that Charles' involvement came to light. So they found notebooks in his office which had the credentials for his accounts, I'm assuming keys and all this sort of shit. And then at the time, the Bitcoin was worth around 60k, and now it's probably worth more than 5.63 million. Prosecutors reported that Charles spent a significant portion of the funds before his arrest. He pleaded guilty to theft, transferring criminal property, and concealing criminal property as well. So, should we just have a quick look at the man in question here?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So this is Mr. Paul Charles. I mean, sort of lost for words on this one. Really, we're sitting there on one hand talking about hackers and extracting funds and shit like that, and then you've got people who are working with the FBI complicit in this. What chance do we have?
Class. Scouser Nix 50 BTC.
I don't understand how he thought he could get away with it.
Well, Wadji did for 8 years.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I would also love to know the moment that they've come down hard on him as well, where it's like, if he spent the majority of that coin as well, and that's not a bad sentence, 5 years, not a bad. I sound like I'm advocating Bitcoin. I'm absolutely not. But how do
5
we?
years for 5 mil.
Yeah, 5 years for 5 mil, and have they seized the rest?
It's a Mr. Beast video coming up. That one.
Yeah,
CoffeeZilla. How do you sort of, like, again, we're talking about, this is the legitimacy episode. Is this just human nature? And like the thing is with crypto, it's like you're never going to get away from that extractive kind of insanity because that's just who people are. Or
I'm sure this happens when like well, I say I'm sure. I bet it's happened when like the FBI have seized like other types of assets. Maybe they've seized like some rare watches or some gold bars or maybe some cash, and a little bit of it goes missing somewhere. So I guess it's the same kind of principle. Yeah, it's human greed.
You've got to watch the detective Mike Dowd, the American guy from New York. I think it's a Netflix little mini documentary. Oh, yeah. And he goes on about how they used to bust people and then just take everything. Like they're busting drug dealers. The drug dealers aren't going to tell another copper that they've done wrong. So they just take all the drugs, all the money, and bugger off. He doesn't get arrested. Happy days. But this is like one of those things, though. If he's investigating people who are making a lot of money through illicit activity, and then he obviously has all the know-how of how to use these coin mixing services, etc. The temptation must be super, super high. If he's earning like 25, 30 grand or something, and you're seeing people pulling out serious wedge, the temptation must be there for any human.
The thing is, the law enforcement must hate this as a form of crime busting, because as you're saying there, it's a lot harder to like Wadge what you're getting at. How's he thought he's getting away with it? You can't really run from this. It's like that's kind of how the blockchain works. So like,
do you reckon he's rocked up to the office in like brand new trackies, like just looking absolutely fresh, dapper down, turkey teeth?
I think he probably he hasn't realized, and he's maybe gone too far, and then he's like got hold of all the coin. And then he's probably like turned up to work on Monday morning, and the moment that they realised that it was him is when he walked into the office like this.
I beat the final boss.
The colleagues were like, I think something's up with Paul. His teeth are looking fly. What do you think of this guy, by the way? He's all over the timeline at the minute.
Viral sensation. We need a contract address ASAP.
And what is it? I was going to say, what is it about like people in the UK just getting grilled online and turning into memes? First, it was those lads in Birmingham, and now this fella here. I'm wondering whether he knows the extent that he's kind of like doing the rounds online, or is he just oblivious to it? He can't be oblivious.
No, I'm sure he knows.
Guys, you're posting photos of him like every 5 minutes. You probably know exactly who he is, and
his name's Jack. He's been milking the content in Ibiza. Like people are going up to him now. He's famous.
Right.
That's a mad buy.
I see. Yeah. So, lads, one thing I wanted to tell you and talk to you about, I should say, is Justin Sun has gone to space. So in this video, Blue Origin here,
There he is.
there he is. He's up in outer space, and since then he's basically just been tweeting non-stop. He tweeted an update.
The 712 astronaut in world history.
He is the 712 astronaut to leave planet Earth.
St.
Mr.
Kitts and
Justin Sun.
Nevis.
He's very, very happy. He's even he's even linked his Wikipedia page. List of space travelers by first flight.
Representing St. Kitts and Nevis class.
Oh man, honestly, he's tweeting videos of himself. I'm officially the 712th astronaut in the world. It's like what he's did there. And then the final one is obviously the screenshot of him with the photo of him as a kid. Lads, does this mean that you are bullish Tron?
That's
How much
the
does it
nature-
cost? How much Tron did he have to sell to go to space?
Well,
I'm sure that costs more than $1 million. It costs probably more than 5 million that the other dude stole.
That's what you call
Yeah.
making it. That's serious money, isn't it?
I think there's an argument to be made here that just proves even further that this guy is actually not a real person and is in fact AI. Well,
Hey, if I was in his shoes and someone said, "Do you want to go to space?" I'd maybe go. Actually,
I don't think I would. To be fair, I think I'm happy with my feet on the soil in the UK. But look, I wanted to just jump back to the one of the first headlines that we read out at the start of the episode there, which is a bit of a segue. But so obviously the FCA opening retail access to crypto ETNs from October to provide consumers with more choice. Now, the reason I'm going back to this is because we three here are all British guys and contending with, I don't really know which way the wind's blowing in this country from a regulatory standpoint. What do you two think of this, given what we've started the episode with the SEC news? What's your view on where we stand right now?
Personally, I just think because of the alignment of our elections versus the US ones, we obviously elected prior to the US, and we're literally their little brother, and we just follow along like a little lapdog. So the cycle was misaligned for us. And if we were a year later, you would see a conservative government in charge, I guess. So I think we've just been scuppered by kind of the timings of our election cycles, to be honest with you. And it seems like we're just well on the back foot here, and progress is not being made. Like if you want crypto-based exposure in your ISA, you've got to buy pretty much MicroStrategy. And so that's obviously more risky than holding BTC. So the fact you can't really get direct exposure to IBIT or something is quite annoying. And I think once we can get exposure to the likes of IBIT, etc., I think you will see people start to save in Bitcoin. But there is a bit of a chasm to cross that people aren't comfortable taking major risks and going on chain in the UK, I would say. Unlike our American counterparts who seem to be like ducks to water, to be fair. But yeah, I could honestly, if we could get into IBIT, I could get a lot of people involved very, very swiftly.
I mean, I'd buy IBIT myself if I could do it through an ISA.
No brainer.
But don't you think it just feels flip-floppy? Like 1 minute, I think the UK is not the place to be for this industry. It's kind of like some of the tax implications that they're wanting to bring down on us and everything like that. And then the next minute you sort of seeing this. Like it was last week or the week before that we read out that headline about Rachel Reeves selling, how much Bitcoin was it, guys? I can't remember off the top of my head, to kind of in the billions, maybe, if seized. Which, I don't know. It feels this, I mean, it's probably an indication of wider problems within this country, really, isn't it? Of how we're all over the fucking place, to be fair. But yeah, still not feeling particularly optimistic about our homeland's approach to the industry we work in and log into every day, gents. I don't know about you, but
No, I agree with that. I agree. I think there's like some directions, as you mentioned, are pretty good, like this. And at the same time, you can't even access like centralized exchanges. You can't access perps or derivatives. You can't access so many apps on chain. Yeah, no, I agree, and I think we don't even have like proper instruments that we could buy. Yeah, I guess like my question to both of you would be like, hypothetically, if Mr. Sunak was still the PM, like would it be different?
I think yes.
Fair.
Yeah, I
What
think
about
he,
you
he
guys?
was. Yeah, I think he was more innovative broadly, and obviously him and his family have serious wealth as well. So I'm sure they can understand the upside potential of this and would want
Yeah.
to get their feet wet as well. But then you kind of like, as a UK person, you just get the feeling that everything is the same. Whoever you vote in, the same shit just happens over and over again. So it never seems to be in the best interest of the British taxpayer and the British people. It just seems
So
like
then,
we're
what's going to change it? Like, does the UK need like a big spokesperson to just like rally for this, or like how is it going to change?
Probably, but I think that, and to add to my point on there, I don't want that to be construed that I'm in any way supportive of our previous PM, who I also think is fucking useless. But the problem is, I think they all are, and
Yeah.
I think that, as what you're saying, Gaz, it feels like a kind of mindless, not really sure what to do with this industry, so we'll take the lead of Big Brother, which is
and tax
ironic.
it to high heavens.
Yeah, well, either that or with the US, well, that's what they're doing, so we shall follow. And as you're saying, Waj, I think without someone actually kind of putting the neck on the line and trying to drive it forward, like maybe like a UK version of a Brian Armstrong, who would actually kind of say, right, this is why we need to make a case for this industry. We're probably just going to consistently be on the coattails of whichever way the US swings, because I think you're dealing with levels of incompetence and people who are severely misinformed that we probably can't even comprehend. But that's just my opinion.
They don't get the industry.
No, and I don't think they want to or even care. So
who is the UK version of Brian Armstrong?
Grand cheers. You watch. You do a good job, man.
No, I'm nowhere near.
Jokes aside, who would you actually have as like a spokesperson for?
I think it needs to be like someone from one of the leading crypto UK companies, and I don't know who that would be.
Darius from Vertex. No longer Vertex, I should say. What are you going to say, Gaz?
Who's running Revolut these days? Who's making moves in fintech?
Oh, that's a good point. Fintech, yeah. I don't know. Well, maybe we'll rally on that. So, look, lads, to draw this to an end, what do you think of where we're at the minute market-wise? Because obviously we've got Waj on, so I want to know your take on things. We're kind of chopping around this area, which to feel deflated about Bitcoin at 114k at the time of recording is mental, but it's where we're at. So, like, what do you think, Waj? I want to know your take. I hear Gaz's all the time. What's the rest of the year looking like for you?
I think in general nothing's changed. I think like it's the same trade that you did before: long Bitcoin or long like high revenue generating protocols and short everything else, and that will just keep winning. There's still a lot of vaporware that's worth billions and billions that just shouldn't be. So I think there'll probably be some more cases of like 90% drawdowns on like some big alts, and probably some more crime as well with that. I think in general, like the market just like doesn't appreciate anything that just doesn't earn proper revenue and give that revenue back to tokens. I think we've seen that a little bit with Pump. And yet we still see like some pretty good fundamentals, and like we still see like some really good revenue stuff on, let's say, Hype and some of the other kind of revenue generating protocols. So I think like that just continues. I'm just curious to see like what like the next iteration of like high revenue generating apps are going to be, and yeah, basically long those. My portfolio is very, very, very conservative right now. It's like 50% stables, 20% Bitcoin, like 15% hype, and then a little bit of just a bunch of random stuff like Sol and etc.
See, guys, you're smirking. You're busting to tell us. Go on.
Mine's about 75% meme coins, 20% hype, and a spattering other bits and bobs, to be honest with you. I think it is kind of like honesty, though, isn't it? Like you've got pure revenue generation, like Hyperliquid is the play for that, doing crazy numbers. And then you've got things like Fartcoin, your SPXs, which kind of have this escape velocity and are just honest about what they are. They're these kind of memes that have either, with Fartcoin, it's just literally Fartcoin, so it's the joke in itself, but it's an honest joke. And then with SPX, you have what seems to be an actual cult, a new cult forming. If you watch some of the videos, some of the members of the Aeons are posting online, it's pretty insane to see. So,
Well, on that note, fellas, I'm going to draw this to a close. Waj, thank you again for joining us for this week, mate, and filling in for the man Grant, who is moving back over to Europe, which I forgot to throw that in there, but is taking some time away from the desk this week. So finally got him back on our time zone. So, guys, as ever, thank you, mate. And if you've made it this far, thanks. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that stuff that I recoil inside when I have to say it out loud, but it's also important that I do. So thanks, guys, and see you at the next one.